Donald Trump dropped some nightmare news on 21 Democrat states after they, once again, chose to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. Now, we know Democrats aren't the most sensible or rational bunch, but this might be the most unreasonable thing they have done so far. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's start with the most absurd, baffling, mind-blowing clip of the entire video because it highlights perfectly what we're going to be talking about.
Thank you for calling New Jersey EBT customer service. For English, press 1. Para español, for EBT, press 1. Enter the last 4 digits of your phone. Enter your PIN. Your staff balance is $23,235.
That woman had over $23,000 in her food stamps balance. $23,000. And she lives in New Jersey, which is one of the states Donald Trump just dropped the hammer on. This is the result of rampant, almost inconceivably frequent welfare fraud. And the federal government is trying to put an end to it. That was one of many videos circulating online of people bragging about the inordinate amount of welfare that they receive, taunting and mocking hardworking, self-sufficient Americans that they're living a more comfortable life than them while not doing anything at all. Americans are tired of watching the social contract erode in real time, watching unproductive, lazy, able-bodied people shamelessly and inconsiderately advertise online that they're taking advantage of a system meant to help people in need. And the rest of us who actually contribute and take care of ourselves are just a bunch of suckers. And so the federal government is cracking down on this fraud, not just from illegal aliens, but from legal aliens and American citizens. And so they've asked the states to turn over records so the federal government can identify fraud and remove it. And 29 red states complied, and every single blue Democrat state refused. Listen to the amount of waste and fraud they caught from the 29 red states that did comply.
When we found 186,000 dead people or dead people's social security numbers being used, 500,000 people receiving benefits more than twice. We had a couple of people receiving benefits in 6 states. In February of this year, we asked for all the states for the first time to turn over their data to the federal government, to let the USDA partner with them to root out this fraud, to make sure that those who really need food stamps are getting them, but also to ensure that the American taxpayer is protected. 21 states said yes, not surprised. 29 states said yes, not surprisingly, the red states, and that's where all of that data, that fraud comes from. But 21 states, including California, New York, and Minnesota, the blue states, continue to say no. So as of next week, we have begun and will begin to stop moving federal funds into those states until they comply and they tell us and allow us to partner with them to root out this fraud and to protect the American taxpayer. As Joe Biden was working to buy an election a year ago, he increased food stamp program funding by 40%.
Democrats are refusing to cooperate to identify, uncover, and stop fraud happening in the welfare system. The only question is why. Democrats haven't realized from their Doge riots that taking a stand against stopping fraud is unreasonable, extremely unpopular, and incriminates you in the eyes of the public. We are literally seeing a $1 billion Somali welfare scam blow up in real time that the governor willfully ignored and allowed to happen. And the Democrats don't think it's a good idea to double check that there isn't other fraud occurring in other programs? Of course not, because that would be common sense, and the Democrats don't have any common sense. They're just against whatever Donald Trump wants, no matter how reasonable or logical it is. New SNAP requirements just kicked off all non-citizens, legal and illegal. And we know the blue sanctuary states harbor the bulk of the migrants. So they don't want to release these records to the federal government so the government doesn't cut off these beautiful benefits for all the millions of illegal future Democrat voters in these states. Take a look at this next clip that shows how truly massive this problem is.
There are 42 million people in this country that need food stamps on a weekly basis. And we're saying people deliberately instead of Americans, because most of the people that are on food stamps aren't even from this country. 45% of Afghanistan immigrants are on food stamps, 42% of Somali immigrants, 34% of every immigrant from Iraq, 23% of Haitians, 59% of all illegal aliens are collecting food stamps, meaning that most of the people getting food stamps from the U.S. government and the U.S. taxpayer are not even Americans. Think about that. And we didn't know about any of this before the government shutdown started, but thanks to Democrats, we can confirm tonight that millions of Joe Biden illegal aliens, people who crossed the border when Joe was president, are now collecting food stamps from a program funded by hardworking American taxpayers.
45% of Afghan immigrants and 42% of Somali immigrants are on welfare. This is why the Democrats are so in favor of importing millions of third world migrants who have to get on the government dole the day they get here and never get off during their entire life. Because the Democrats want dependence. 42% of Somali immigrants and 45% of Afghan immigrants are on welfare and will never get off because being at the absolute bottom in America is infinitely times better than whatever life they could have possibly achieved back in their home country. They can come to America, get free housing, free healthcare, free education for their kids, free food, and don't even have to work for it. And they're so against bringing in productive and self-sufficient immigrants from civilized nations because they don't want the unfulfilling government welfare dependent lifestyle the Democrats offer. Somalis and Afghans and Haitians will simply vote for whoever promises to give them the most free stuff. And we know the numbers are equally as bad, if not worse, with illegal aliens. Those numbers you just saw were for legal immigrants, by the way. People we reviewed, vetted, knew we would have to pay for anyway, and still let them come here. And just like every other Democrat false narrative that gets exposed in humiliating fashion, they're once again trying to claim, oh, it's impossible that illegals are receiving welfare. That's illegal. That can't happen. Well, it's also illegal for illegals to receive CDLs to drive trucks, but that's been exposed for happening in California. It's illegal to break into the United States, but 20 million people did that. It's illegal to commit welfare fraud and social security fraud. People do it anyway. So Democrats are just pretending the problem doesn't exist rather than addressing it and solving it because they benefit from the problem continuing and exacerbating. But Donald Trump said no more and said, if you're not going to turn over these records, then you guys are not getting any more federal dollars. Take a look.
Millions of Americans could lose access to food assistance as the Trump administration targets Democratic-led states. The controversial new move after requests for names and immigration status of recipients are being denied. Let's bring in Susan Hirasuna with more on today's developments. Susan?
Well, the state of California is just one of 22 total that sued the Trump administration for the threat of cutting off SNAP benefits. Despite that, the Agriculture Secretary today announced time's up. If those Democrat-run states do not provide the information about the aid recipients, the funding will be cut off next week. During a cabinet meeting today, President Trump listened without comment to Secretary Brooke Rollins. She claimed that 29 states had provided the information demanded, including names and immigration status. 21, including California, believe the order is illegal, and the government does not have the legal authority to demand the specific data or threaten funding. Secretary Rollins claims the data from the Republican-led states resulted in weeding out fraud.
So Democrats are demanding the federal government continue to send them money while simultaneously insisting they have no obligation to explain what they're spending the money on. The federal government funds SNAP and creates rules for who can receive it, and the state administers it and makes sure that the rules are being followed. And the federal government is merely trying to verify that the rules are being followed. And Democrat states are like, nah, you can just trust me, they are. It'd be like if somebody committed a crime and you had to ask them for permission out of the kindness of their heart to please provide you with evidence that would lead to putting them in jail. When you're your own referee, you're probably going to win the game. And so Democrats, once again, have chosen the starve their own constituents for political leverage route. Instead of realizing the jig is up, the scam is done, the party's over, your parents have returned from vacation, the Democrats are opting to starve Americans to protect infinite welfare for illegals. I want to show you guys this interaction I had on X about this subject because it clearly highlights the stark divide on the lines of common sense. Make sure you follow me on X, by the way. This girl says the Trump administration has announced that they will withhold food stamp funding from Democrat states unless they give them recipient records. This is forced food poverty. I said, I don't know if you'll see this, but I want to ask because I generally think this is the kind of issue that perplexes me, how we're divided. Is there seriously anything wrong with the Fed asking states to provide them records of who taxpayer money is going to? To which someone replied, why does the federal government need those records? And I said, so the government can audit where taxpayer money is going? Are you not seeing this Somali welfare scam blow up in real time? Is it not worth exploring if there's widespread fraud happening in other areas? Like, isn't that the level of detail you want from the government? And remember, folks, these are the same people that are screaming tax the rich, who are trying to give government even more money and control. These are the same people advocating for government to run everything that's important in our lives while rejecting the idea that the government should be held accountable for spending our money effectively, efficiently, and properly. The only explanation is Donald Trump wants it to happen, so therefore they don't want it to. These aren't real people. These are empty vessels who wake up every morning and decide who they'll be that day based on what Donald Trump said or did. And speaking of what Donald Trump said, here he is explaining why he very reasonably cut off SNAP funds to people who aren't willing to help stop fraud.
We have to remain liquid. We can't give everything away based on a number. Here's an example. When I was president, the number that you're talking about was a tiny fraction of what it is now. Biden went totally crazy, gave it to anybody that would ask, gave it to people that were able-bodied, had no problem. Anybody that would ask, we get the number. And it's many times the number of people are on. This wasn't meant for that. It was meant for people that had real problems, in many cases people that were down and out, people that could be saved. It wasn't meant for people that could do whatever they want, the people that say, well, I don't think I'll work, I'll just, collect this money. Take a look at the number of what it was during my administration and what it was during the Biden administration. It went up many, many times my first term.
Democrats desperately want to keep every immigrant they possibly can, legal or illegal, on welfare, hoping that they can eventually wait out Donald Trump. The Democrats are forcing the American citizen to pay to sustain unself-sufficient third world migrants who outpopulate us, in hopes that one day all of these immigrants can receive amnesty, be granted citizenship, and them and their U.S. citizen-born children will repay the Democrat Party with their vote in perpetuity. The Democrats opened the southern border and let in as many third world dependents as humanly possible, so even if Donald Trump deported a few million, one day they'd be able to repay the party that allowed them to break into the United States and gave them infinite free stuff to stay here. It is a traitorous scam of epic proportion, a slimy power grab at the expense of social cohesion, and the Democrats once again show their unwavering commitment to illegal migrants by forcing Americans to starve as political leverage. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.